Welcome back to I Now Pronounce You Divorce, Law & Hatley PC's podcast, where each week we take a deep dive into topics that our clients and potential clients are concerned about or going through. And with the current season upon us, one of the concerns that a lot of people have, I was going to try to use another word, one of the concerns a lot of people have is debt and how debt truly impacts their impending divorce or current divorce. And we're very lucky to be joined in person by a special guest to talk to us. So can you introduce yourself, tell us what you do and how you can help out with debt?
Sure. I'm Kari Jessen. I'm a financial representative with Northwestern Mutual. I help people kind of look at where they are financially and create a roadmap to where they want to go. So we're looking at now and into the future and how we can get there.
Okay. So one of the things I love about debt is if you read anything online, they'll tell you how to leverage debt, how to use debt to buy your 180 Airbnb properties so you can have your $1 million a month in retirement account with almost no risk, as Airbnb properties do. Most people are not in the position to leverage debt. So how can you truly understand debt responsibly?
When it comes to divorce, I guess more specifically, when you're going into divorce, you really need to understand where the debt lies, who's responsible for which debt, what debt you have and what debt the other party has, and understand who's going to be responsible for it.
Mm-hmm. And how would you even start that? So if I wanted to know, like, let's say my spouse and I have everything somewhat commingled, but may have things I don't know about, what's the best way to get started?
So start by checking your credit score.
Oh.
Go online. There's a number of different credit bureaus you need to check through. Check your credit score. It's going to show what accounts you have as far as debt to your name, so you understand where you're starting from. And
I've heard a lot of myths that getting divorced automatically impacts your credit score. So you get divorced, the judge signs the order, and boom, you lose 100 points. Is that true, or is it kind of everything else that happens that impacts?
There's a lot of factors that go into your credit score and divorce. And so I don't think there's any one thing that's going to impact your credit score like that. Just understand what your debt is and make sure that you're being responsible for your debt is going to go a long way to keeping your credit score intact.
Now, I know with our clients, we always tell them, usually in the first meeting, pull your credit score. So that way we can see all the open accounts. Pay the money to pull it again. I can't remember the exact cost, but I think the last time I looked, it was like $20. Pull it again in the middle, and then we pull it again right before the trial, because the reality is it's very likely that your spouse knows your Social Security number. It's very likely your spouse can answer the questions needed to open up a credit card, and having those will be very important.
So one of the things you can do is that you can actually put a freeze on your credit so that nothing is affecting your credit during all this. Your spouse isn't pulling anything else. And so if someone tries to pull something, you'll get a notification. So I would recommend checking your credit score, freezing your credit so that nothing can be opened additionally in your name. Anything, you have to unfreeze your credit to open something else and then refreeze it again.
What's the difference? I know one's free, right? One, you can actually go in there and do it for free, and the other one, they try to charge you. Have you seen that difference?
I haven't. I know Equifax, Experian, both of them. I'm not aware of a fee that goes into freezing either one of them. You can also set up a fraud alert through Equifax to make it harder for someone to open a new account in your name.
I think it's lock. I think sometimes the other services will lock your credit for you, so you can just text one number and unlock all three of them, but the freeze is where you go do it.
Okay, I think if you just go individually to each one, then you can do it for free, but you can probably pay someone to do it for you. You can always pay someone to do something for you, right?
The credit score really goes to how much you're spending that you shouldn't be, right? Credit you're using. Yep. So a lot of this comes into budgeting and financial independence. So the first step to divorce is you're breaking up a household. Sometimes if it's a single family household, you're going to be paying spouse support and child support. If it's a dual income household, you're going to be cutting the income in half. How do you start discussing with clients how to create a budget, manage debt, and start building financial stability after divorce?
So the first thing we look at, at Northwestern, we've got just a budget worksheet, a really generic sheet. Just sit down and say, what expenses do you have right now? So I'm not going to ask you to change anything right now. I just want to know, what are you paying out? What's coming in and what's going out? And we can just do the math, to figure out where the budget is. And then if the math is such that there's more going out than there is coming in, then we need to make some considerations on how we can cut spending and change those expenses. It's simple math at that point.
It is simple, but it's hard to put in action.
It is. Yeah. It is. It's emotional too.
It is.
There's a lot of emotions that go into it.
I always joke, I say your budgeting is very easy. It's just 1 + 0 times a percentage, but you got to do it. You got to add your money, and then you might have a percentage for your interest or your whatever you're paying on your credit card.
You have to hold yourself accountable for it. Create a budget and hold yourself accountable for it.
That sounds fun. So another part is we have a lot of people that'll get spousal support, they'll get child support. How do you talk to people about life insurance policies, right? Because people pass away.
So my biggest recommendation is, first of all, make sure that yourself is covered. Your income, your income is covered if something happened to you, and then your family is covered if something happens to you in terms of life insurance. The other thing to consider, though, is if you're receiving alimony or child support from someone from the other party, to make sure that they have a life insurance policy, because you're counting on that money from the other party. Something happens to them, you don't have that money anymore unless there's a life insurance policy. So I recommend my clients to talk to their lawyer and make sure that there's a life insurance policy put in place, a requirement by the divorce decree, really, to make sure that protection's put in place.
And I will tell you, if you represent the client who has to pay it, you're going to fight that too. Or you're going to try to get the other side to pay for it. I had a client who he had an extraordinary amount of savings, retirement, cash savings, and his spouse took a very high amount of spousal support in order to not have to, he didn't want to divide those assets. Mm-hmm. And so the spousal support number she agreed to was 3 times higher, but then he passed away like 18 months later, and she had nothing, and then spent everything she had trying to sue the estate to get the money back, but she had agreed to it. Yeah. And we had made the offer that he would sign whatever paperwork necessary to get a life insurance policy, but because of the divorce, she never sent it through. So how do you talk to your clients about these financial realities when they're going through such an emotional time to just keep moving forward so you don't forget to send them the paperwork?
So as a financial representative, my goal is to be the expert in your corner when you're going through that experience. And I recommend you get an expert in every corner when you're going through it. And so as a financial representative, I'm going to try to keep that person accountable. I try to keep it moving. So I'm doing weekly touch-ins or bi-weekly, whatever it is that needs to happen to make sure that those assets are covered. Because there's a lot of things that slip through the cracks. Going through a divorce, it's a very emotional time. Your life insurance is not the first thing on your mind, or the second, third, or fourth thing on your mind. And so get that expert in your corner and have that person be your accountability partner when it comes to those issues.
Another thing that I think a lot of people miss the importance of is understanding that, yes, they may make $10,000 a month. They owe $8,000 a month in liabilities. Easy peasy. But that's not how it works. How do you talk to people about cash flow and planning for when the money comes in versus when the money's actually due?
It goes down to the budgeting again. Yeah. I mean, we talk about, when I sit down with my clients, I want to know what is hitting the bank every month. Mm-hmm. So when taxes are taken out, healthcare, all the things that are taking our paycheck, what's hitting the bank every month and what's going out every month? It comes down to that budgeting worksheet again to make sure that the math is working out. It's really, again, like we talked about, really simple math, but it's really that emotional part that goes to it that you've got to really focus on.
Mm-hmm. And as we're talking about what's going out, it's creditors, right? People like to get paid.
Yeah, they do.
When you're going through divorce, sometimes like I say, if you're going from a 2-income household and now you split up, it gets hard to pay, or even going from 1 income to paying alimony spousal support. What are steps that people can take to talk to their creditors?
Well, first of all, once you've figured out what debt is yours, and if you've got multiple accounts with debt, the first recommendation I have is to consolidate what you can. So once you can consolidate, you can make one payment instead of trying to figure out how to pay 5 creditors. And that's really going to simplify the process. And then not incurring new debt is extremely important. Once you've consolidated and you have a plan, let's stick to the plan and not overspend and accrue new debt.
Uh-huh. And that goes to just being honest about your situation?
Yeah. I mean, no point in hiding it, right?
No.
It is what it is.
Yeah, that's, a lot of what we see are people that say, well, once this is over, things will change. I'm going to get a raise next year, so I'll be able to pull myself out of this. This financial windfall is going to happen. How does that usually work out?
I wouldn't count on a financial windfall. Nothing is guaranteed in life except death and taxes, right? Mm-hmm. So work with what you've got right now. If something additional comes in later, then we can, put that in the budget and we can, add expenses, but work with what you got now. I mean, yeah, your budget's going to be tight because you've just cut your income in half or less. Don't add any extra expenses. I would budget even further. I mean, when I went through it, I cut expenses. I canceled all my subscriptions. I looked to see where I could cut expenses to make it on the new income that I had.
Rocket Money tells everybody you're probably paying more. Right? It's bad when you look and you realize, I mean, my thing I got me the other day was Disney and Hulu, and then Hulu with Disney. I was like, wait, I'm paying for both of those. And I look every month, but the Disney one re-ups like every 3 years or something. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Keep an eye on your credit card statements, your bank statements. It's beyond just a credit freeze. It's making sure you know what those automatic deductions are. Beware when you're doing your budget worksheet, pull out your credit card bill and your bank statement and look to see what money's coming out regularly. I mean, you've probably got subscriptions you've totally forgot about.
Or you'd be super lazy like I am and just call and cancel your credit card. And then when they reissue the new number, you see everybody that wants to get paid. And you're like, oh, well
that's one way to do it, I guess.
When I was younger, I used to cancel my credit card every 6 or 8 months just to make sure that nothing was outstanding because the new number would come through and I would see everybody that wanted to paid. And it was a really good time for me to go back and be like, oh, I don't need that.
How'd your credit score fare?
Actually went up.
Okay.
Yeah, because I kept not canceling. I just kept saying I lost my credit card.
Oh, okay.
So they would reissue the number so all the charges that were going through would be stopped.
Okay, so you weren't canceling the account.
Not canceling.
Okay.
Not canceling. Just saying I lost the credit card. But it was good because I was able to keep my monthly payments low. But there is, that's a funny way to talk about it, right? It's amusing to say, look, I'm paying for 2 digital subscriptions or I'm paying for this and I don't use it. But there is an emotional aspect that comes with debt. And how do you walk people through that debt doesn't necessarily mean failure?
One of the questions when I sit down with someone new is we talk about your emotional relationship with money. How do you feel about money? Is it something that you feel is like a necessary evil? Is it something you feel like, oh, it's great to have all this? We talk about how your emotions are related to your money. And from there, I can walk someone through, okay, you feel this way about money. Let's take a look at what you've got going on and how we can change that. But that's a starting place. What are your emotions towards money and how do we move forward based on what your emotions already are?
Another thing I think people misunderstand is all the resources that are available to help them, because not a lot of people like to ask for help, especially if they think it's a personal failure.
Right.
So what sort of resources are available for people to actually go and start taking those steps forward?
So you're right. It's very isolating when you first go through the process. And again, coming from personal experience, I looked for the experts in my corner. So I had a financial advisor. I hired a divorce coach. I have a therapist. I have people to help me with the emotional output that comes with all of that. In addition to my lawyer. One of the platforms that I stand on is that divorce is so much more than a legal process. It's a very emotional process, and your lawyer is not there to be your emotional support person. You need to find an output for your emotions, and your lawyer is not it. That's a lot of billable hours you don't need to, undergo. So look for the experts that are going to help you. There are people who specialize in divorce and life coaches, and there's divorce coaches and career coaches, and find the expert that helps you in the direction you need to go. So find the expert for finances, find the expert for your emotions, find the expert that you need for what you're undergoing.
How did you, kind of taking a tangent, how did you know that there were experts in the world? So
I had a very long drawn out divorce and I wish I'd learned things a lot sooner, but because it was so long and drawn out, I was searching for help. It's hard to look for help. It's a very isolating process. So I was just out there looking, and there's, unlimited Facebook groups and blog posts and, all sorts of resources out there, but you have to look for them. And once I found kind of that direction, then I found my divorce coach and I found, people to help me. Of course, therapy is a given. I think therapy should be a requirement almost. You all need therapy, especially going through divorce. But everybody works together. I joke I have a staff. So.
What about ChatGPT? Is that just as good?
I'm just now leaning into ChatGPT.
Okay. Yeah, I play with it a lot to see what it will say because I like understanding when people send things to me, how much is ChatGPT generated. And so I usually will ask ChatGPT questions, just see what it responds so that I can see what other people are going to respond. But I'll tell you where we've seen it is ChatGPT gives terrible professional advice. Are you starting to see that sneak into the financial world where people say, well, ChatGPT told me to invest only in pork futures?
I have not had any experience with someone asking ChatGPT for financial advice.
Okay.
Fortunately, I guess I haven't come across that. Yeah, I use it a lot for helping with communication and writing, making sure that my communication is clear, particularly when it comes to communicating with my ex. So.
We've had a lot of people give that advice that use ChatGPT, like Grammarly or any sort of AI, because you can change your tone of voice and make it nicer. And for me, like, I have to use that all the time because I don't want to write an email that's longer than 2 sentences. And it's like, well, maybe you should be a little bit nicer, maybe a little bit less on the nose. When you're going through divorce, I think money, from our perspective, from the divorce attorney's perspective, our clients talk about money a lot. When we give the advice to go talk to somebody about money, they're relatively hesitant. Do you see that hesitation on your end where people come in and they don't really want to share everything with you?
Well, the first question we always get is, what's this going to cost? Yeah. With Northwestern, we provide a free financial review, so it doesn't cost anything to come in and talk to us. And from there, we can get a feel for where you're at. Yeah, there's an embarrassment. People can definitely say, I'm, $50,000 in debt, or, it's embarrassing, but we can work through it, until you start. First, we have to recognize it. What are these steps for, everything is first you have to recognize what's going on and figure out how you're going to change it. So definitely seek out an expert in that opinion. Like, if you've got all this going on, find someone that can help you, it goes back to asking for help.
It does. And, people don't like opening that credit card statement because it is a however long history of all the bad choices you've ever made.
At some point, they're putting their head in the sand and hoping it'll go away. And the longer you ignore it, the bigger it grows. And it grows real fast, 28% usually. It
does. We had an opposing client one time, and their claim was they didn't have any money. And so we pulled out the credit card statements, and they were spending, I think it was like $1,300 a month on fast food. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner at McDonald's every single day for their whole family. And minus the health impact of that, they were saying that, and the person just refused to acknowledge. So even as we presented the evidence, they read it, the judge is sitting there looking at it saying, like, ma'am, how are you doing this? She was like, well, I don't have any money for regular groceries. And that's how she was quantifying it. How do you help people? And really where it came from, right? There was so many posts online at that period of time. So the only reason I actually look online is to see what excuses people are going to make. That's it. I love online because I'm like, here's the excuse I get to hear in 3 weeks. But she said the same thing. She goes, well, Your Honor, it's cheaper for me to go to McDonald's than it is to go to the grocery store and buy groceries. And the judge was like, no, it is not. How do you pull people off these misconceptions that are being fed by the echo room of social media?
You really have to sit down and look at the facts. I mean, once you sit down and truly dig into that, you can very easily discredit that. But it's going to take time to sit down and be like, okay, well, what do you like to eat? Here's what the cost of a dozen eggs is. I mean, you're really going to have to get down to the nuts and bolts of it to discredit that, to change. It's a mindset shift. You have to figure out how to change that mindset. Try it for a week. Why don't you try not eating out for a week and see how it goes?
Well, it's really expensive because then you have to buy plates and you have to buy silverware and you have to buy pots and pans. So
that's a different story.
So, when you're going through divorce, and you talked about your own divorce, you have to step up at some point and say, this is my financial future, right? I've got to protect my financial self and stop letting other people guide my future. How do you talk about with people, and what strategies do you use to help people protect their financial futures?
Well, first we talk about taking accountability for debt. So we're going to start there. Where are you now? And then we look into the future. And when I sit down and talk to someone, I want to know, what are your priorities? What are your goals? There's a list of 10 questions. I sit down and talk to someone about their priorities. How do you rank between 1 to 10 your priority for having an emergency fund, or learning about debt and investments, or making sure your family's protected, like with life insurance and things like that. So once I understand their priorities, then I can really speak to, what needs to happen in the future. But I also want to know what your goals are. Like, do you plan to retire at 50? Are you going to work till you're 70? Like, what are your goals? And then from there, we connect the dots. We say, this is where you're at now. This is where you want to go. And we've got some really cool software where we can create some images, illustrations, where you can create these illustrations and say, okay, well, you're not on target to get to your goal. So if you want to get to your goal, this is what you need to change. One of the other questions we ask is, if you find that you can't get to your goal, are you willing to save more now or spend less later? So you have to figure out what's going to give. Like, you can't just say, I want to retire at 50, but right now I work at McDonald's. And nothing is people who work at McDonald's, but you're probably not retiring at 50.
I'm not going to well.
So you have to just figure out where your priorities are. And if you want to retire at 50, then you better save more now.
Get those Airbnbs, right?
And you better
leverage your debt.
you better get some sort of plan in place. Get a financial advisor, help them get a plan in place.
So, when you are talking about that future and you're talking to people about spend less, put an emergency fund together, it seems daunting. How do you convince people to take eat the elephant one bite at a time?
It's baby steps for sure. Again, when we talk about where are you now, what is your income right now? Do you anticipate getting more income? And I know I said don't put all your eggs in one basket, but are you anticipating raises in the future, and how can we work towards that? The goals, what that's going to help you with. But let's make sure that you're on point for today. Let's make sure that you're protected today. And then we can, take one step at a time. And I meet with clients every 6 months to make sure they're on track. And if they're not on track, again, I'm their accountability partner. It's the same reason people hire a personal trainer. They're your accountability partner. So use your financial representative as your accountability partner to make sure that you're staying on track for those goals. And they're going to say, you got off track. Like, if you're not going to get to retire unless you start saving a whole lot more.
People give up, right? And anytime you're trying to do an undertaking of getting a divorce, resetting your family, looking at your financial impact, people give up. How do you pull people back from the brink of giving up to just saying, hey, just one step forward. You don't have to put away $1,000 a month. Just how about this month, put away $1?
It is. It's breaking it down into small pieces. You're going to hit roadblocks. Again, in my own experience, you hit those roadblocks and you're like, what am I doing? How did I get here? What is going on? You just have to take it one step at a time. It's 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time sometimes. You've got to get through it, but there's no other choice, right? You have to get through it.
Yeah. It's coming whether you like it or not.
It really is. And you can either, if you let yourself sink into depression and not functional, then you're really going to have a hard time getting out of that hole. So it's a mindset thing. There's a lot of mindset tricks you've got to learn, and get yourself a therapist, get yourself someone to help you with your mindset and your attitude, and just handle your emotions, because otherwise you are going to sink down, and find those experts.
Do you just yell mindset at people when their mindset gets up?
No, I don't. We talk about, what's going on and what can we do to help? How can I help you? But I'm here to make you accountable for what you're doing. But you also have to be accountable. Like, I can ask you these questions all day long, and I can send you the e-sign to sign your life insurance every day. But if you don't sign it, it has to be a priority for you. And if it's not, I can't make it your priority.
No. We go through the same thing. Like, hey, here's this thing you need to look at. And a week later, like, why didn't you file that? Like, you see this email you didn't respond to?
Yeah.
You needed to respond to that.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, when I dealt directly with our clients, it's very clear that each and every one of our clients at least needed to reset their financial understanding as they went through this process. So what is the best way for our clients to get in contact with you, or any client to get in contact with you that just is looking for divorce, getting a reset, or any sort of life change, right? If they're widowed, that's a life change.
Yeah,
any of that. How can they get in contact with you?
You can email me at kari.jessen@nm.com. It's kari.jessen@nm.com. Or you can reach me directly at 757-529-1848.
And like you said, it's a free assessment to where they can sit down and start learning. So even if you have somebody that comes in and nobody does, thinks they understand everything about money, at least they know that they do.
Yeah, well, and I love working with women who are just starting out the process. It's because it's so daunting. And I would really like to be a resource to women who are going through that. And when you first start, it's really just figuring out where you are. It's not pushing policy. It's not pushing you to buy anything. You may not be in a position to buy something until you get through your divorce, until you know what's happening. But let me help you get there. A lot of women that I encounter, I've been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. They're like, I don't have an income, or my husband's always done my finances. What do I do now? So I love being that resource for women to to kind of get a handle on things, because you are stronger than you think you are.
Thank you very much for taking time to talk to us about this. I don't care who you are. Everybody needs a financial reset occasionally. So if you like this episode, please hit like or subscribe, and we look forward to talking to y'all next time.